Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this final session on our Step into the NHS Day for Key Stage 3. Welcome if you have joined, even if you've joined our other sessions earlier on today, and welcome if this is the first one that you've been able to join today. We are really pleased to see so many of you here in schools from around the country. So it's great to have you here, and hopefully you'll find the session really inspiring. So we're going to be talking a bit about the Step into the NHS competition, and also, just noting that it's National Careers Week as well. So you'll be finding out lots of information over the week, hopefully about many different careers. And my name is Abby, by the way. I'm from the NHS Health Careers team. I'm going to be joined by a couple of brilliant guests in a minute. So a little bit of housekeeping before we start. If there are any issues with sound, obviously check the speakers, but also sometimes leaving the Teams call and rejoining will sort out sound issues. We are recording this session, and your cameras and mics are muted, but please do put things into the chat. So we will be asking for questions in a bit for our guests. So make sure that you put those into the chat so that we can pick those up and ask as many of them as possible to our guests. So I think that is all the housekeeping bits and bobs done. So let's introduce this session properly. So this session is called A Day in the Life, and we're going to be hearing from Salma and Paul, who both do very different jobs. And you'll be able to watch videos about their job roles and then have the chance to ask them your questions live. Okay. Now, hopefully lots of you have got worksheets that we've sent through. If you haven't got a worksheet, maybe you've got a bit of paper. Make sure you're using that worksheet to capture bits of information that you hear Paul and Salma talking about, or things that you notice about what they say. Maybe you'll want to use one of their roles as your role that you pick for your competition entry for the Step into the NHS competition. So do be listening really carefully to what Salma and Paul are saying, and we know that you're going to learn lots of really interesting and inspiring stuff. So get those worksheets ready. Okay, so first up, we are going to be watching a video from Salma about her job role and what she typically gets up to. Hi, Salma.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh no, we're really glad that you're here because yeah, your role's one of the more unusual ones probably. So let's watch your video.
My name is Salma Ben Yahya. I'm a senior orthotist at the Royal Wolverhampton Trust, where I've been working for the last 6 years. As an orthotist, I design and fit medical devices such as braces and splints to support patients' limbs and spines, just to help them move better and feel more comfortable. Before my role, I had to study for 3 years at university, completing an undergraduate degree in prosthetics and orthotics at the University of Salford. However, there are other routes that you can take to become an orthotist. These include a degree apprenticeship or a master's degree after studying a related subject. There is no average day in orthotics. We cover different clinics, hospitals, and sometimes even visit schools. In the morning, I'll see patients and assess them for things like helmets, special footwear, and splints. These items help reduce pain and provide better support for patients living with conditions and disabilities. Usually my afternoons involve visiting patients in the main hospital, something called a ward round. And during this, I'll check with patients to see if they're able to safely go home. Sometimes the hospitals have special workshops, and this is where I might spend time using tools or making things or repairing items for our patients. So you need to be good at science, especially biology and physics. If you enjoy subjects like design and technology, then being an orthotist is similar, as it's very practical, hands-on, and you need a good eye for detail. Being creative and good at problem solving is important as well, because we have to come up with specially designed solutions for our patients too. Good communication and listening skills are important as well, as we need to understand our patients' needs and explain things to them clearly. Working well in a team is crucial, as we collaborate with other healthcare professionals to provide the best care. If you enjoy science, working with your hands and helping people, a career in orthotics could be for you. you get to make a real difference in people's lives every day.
Great stuff. That was really interesting to hear about some of the things that you do, Salma, and some of the skills that you need and interests that you need to have as well. So thank you for doing that video for us. That's really great. What's the best part of your job, would you say?
I think the best part about my job is every single day I get to help people from very young babies all the way up to the elderly. I get to be creative and problem solving to create and design items that are going to help people in their daily lives, help them walk better, reduce their pain. And it's always nice seeing patients leave us with a smile on their face and happier.
Brilliant. That must be really satisfying for sure. What inspired you to work as an orthotist? Because it's the sort of role that a lot of people haven't heard of, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely we're a smaller profession, so we're not as widely known. However, there's so many great things about the job. You get to use kind of theory and your practical skills as well. So you get to do a lot of hands-on work, and no day is the same. Every day you're faced with new challenges, new problem solving dilemmas. So you get to kind of be creative all the time. And do something different all the time, which makes things very interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay, so hopefully, students, you are thinking of lots of questions that you've got for Salma, because it's such an interesting job. So please make sure that you are letting your teachers know what your questions are, and teachers, please do start to put them into the chat for a minute or so's time. Before we get to that, though, Salma, just another question from me. So what qualifications did you need for this? And also, did you need any work experience beforehand?
So for myself, I did a 3-year degree program at the University of Salford, and that qualified me as a prosthetist and orthotist. So once you qualify, you can go into either career or you can practice as both. So you have the degree route, which is that there's 2 universities that do it, either the University of Salford or the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow. The other route is an apprenticeship at the University of Kiel, which you can go through. So you'll be learning on the job and working a job essentially, whilst also learning and getting the qualification at the end as well.
Great. So flexible ways in as well, which is great to hear. Okay, so main skills you need in your job. I think you probably set out those quite clearly in your video, but anything you want to add to that?
I think the main skills that you need, or the main subjects that they'd be looking at when you apply for the course, are having maths and science as a background. Especially biology is really important because we're learning all about the human body, how it works, how the muscles and bones interact. But having mathematical understanding as well, because it helps with the physics aspects, and the biomechanics is important as well. What I would always advise is, if you're not sure if the subjects you've done or the grades you've got are suitable for the course, get in touch with the course program lead. They're always on hand to give you advise you whether you have the subjects. If not, is there a top-up course you can do, and what the top-up courses they'll accept is. That's what I had to do, and it saved me a lot of time rather than looking for programs myself that they may or may not accept, rather than going directly to them and them telling me exactly what they would accept and me working towards that.
Great. So don't be afraid to ask questions then, by the sound of it, from the universities. Brilliant. Thank you, Salma. So we are about to come to your questions, everyone. But just before we do, I believe we have a question that's been submitted by Westfield Academy students first. So I think we've got a video coming up of that. And
hi, my name is Annabelle, and we would like to know how you demonstrate NHS values.
Brilliant question. I demonstrate NHS values every single day. I work with other professionals for the patients, making sure that the patients are always put first. working with compassion, and making sure that everything I'm doing is trying to improve patients' lives, and I'm putting the patients first in everything that I'm doing.
Great, that's really lovely to hear, because just for all of you watching, so we do look for obviously the right qualifications and experience for jobs and courses in the NHS, but also really important that you understand the values from the NHS and some of those things that Salma just talked about now. Great. Okay, so let's take some questions from you all now. So lots of good questions in the chat, Salma. So let me just, here's a good one. What hours do you work and what does a typical day look like? I know you covered some of the typical day in your video, but what about your working hours?
So my working hours are typically 8:30 in the morning until 4:30 p.m. Now at the moment I'm working flexibly, so I'm working 3 days a week. However, I was working 5 days a week previously. We're a Monday to Friday service, so we don't work weekends. But again, especially when you work for the NHS service, they're always looking at how they can help you work flexibly. So everyone's situations might be slightly different. So there's always that flexibility there, but we're typically 8:30 till 4:30 Monday to Friday.
Great, thank you. Okay, someone here has asked about average salary for this role. So we're not asking you for your specific salary, but what's kind of, you know, the bracket, the salary bracket for?
So normally once you've graduated, if you've graduated on the degree programme, you'll enter the profession on a band 5 salary, which the banding for the NHS is very transparent. It's all there online that you can go and see. So you'll enter at a band 5, which I believe is around 27,000 at the moment. And you progress through the bands from band 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you can go up to. One of the good things I will say about orthotics is the progression through the bands tends to be quicker than other professions because we are such a small cohort, and we need people to kind of be getting more specialist and becoming leaders a lot more quickly, and because there is essentially a bit less competition at the moment for those positions.
Okay, right. Great question here. What's the difference between an orthotist and a prosthetist?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a prosthetist would be working with people who have lost limbs or have an absence of limbs from birth. So you're creating devices to replace a limb. So somebody might have had an amputation and we're creating essentially a new leg for them. An orthotist will work with existing limbs that may need additional support or stability. And we're making a device around their existing limb to help them, say, walk better, for example.
Great, thank you. That is really clear. But you do the training in both of those things, don't you?
Yes. Yeah. So you've got lots of options.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, whoever put that in, because that was really good one. Another really good one here. Are all the devices you make customizable to different people?
So it will depend on the kind of patient we're seeing and what level of support they need. So for some patients, we'll get off-the-shelf devices. For other patients, we might have something we call semi-bespoke, which parts of it we will tailor to their needs, but other parts are essentially set as a standard. Then the next level would be completely customizable. So we're making this device completely from scratch. So we can customize it in any way we want to, and we can essentially ask the factory for whatever it is we want on this device.
Wow.
And oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So sometimes we'll have patients requesting a certain print on their device. Some patients want the Wolves logo on it, and that's something we try and accommodate.
Brilliant. And so this links quite nicely to this next question. What's the strangest thing you've made?
The strangest thing I've made. So I think the strangest thing I probably made is a elbow extension brace. So somebody was missing an elbow and I had to try and create and make up an idea to allow them to have the same motion of an elbow that they didn't have. So it took a lot of problem solving, speaking with the team and other people to figure out the best way around that.
Wow. Oh, that sounds amazing. It's the creativity is just incredible, isn't it? One more question, Salma. There's so many good questions for you here, so we could go on for a while, but we've got to stick to time. Do you work with anyone with additional needs in your role?
Yes, so we see a lot of patients with additional needs. We'll see a lot of younger children, but also adults with additional needs. They might be neurodivergent, or they might have things like cerebral palsy. So we see a lot of patients with different needs across the spectrum, and we try our best to try and support them and accommodate for their additional needs.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for all those questions. So many good questions in there. So I'm sorry if we haven't got round to answering them, but I'm sure you found it really fascinating to hear about Salma's role. And remember to be making notes on your worksheet. Okay, thank you very much, Salma. So we are now joined by Paul. And hi, Paul.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So, Paul, we are going to go straight into watching your video.
Hello, my name is Paul Carpenter and I'm a senior cybersecurity analyst. I've been working in NHS for 4 years and helped to lead a team that protects the NHS computer systems from cyber threats. Before my current role, I taught ICT, computer science, business studies and media at a secondary school. I've always enjoyed the cybersecurity aspect of teaching and decided to study for a part-time master's degree in advanced cybersecurity and forensics. I then joined the NHS as a cybersecurity advisor and progressed to my current position. However, there are several other ways you could become a cybersecurity analyst. You could study for an undergraduate degree in computer science or cybersecurity, join the NHS England graduate scheme, or complete an apprenticeship. A typical day for me involves me starting the day off by posting my team's schedule. This shows who's monitoring which parts of our computer network for the day, and it rotates to make sure everybody has a chance to cover everything. After that, I'll check in with my team to catch up on any overnight incidents, as cyber threats, for example hacking, can happen 24/7. Throughout the rest of the day, I usually have meetings with different teams across the NHS, and sometimes the entire security team, to find out what other colleagues are working on and where we can help each other. One of the key tasks is responding to cybersecurity alerts from different NHS hospitals and helping them to overcome any issues. I also work on creating new ways to detect new cybersecurity threats and ensure that we don't miss any potential risks. In cybersecurity, technical skills like understanding computers and coding are important, so studying subjects like computer science, ICT and business can be very useful. However, these subjects are not essential. We also have team members with backgrounds in maths, and good written English is also helpful for creating reports. To work on a cybersecurity analyst, you need to be able to collaborate and work well with various types of people. Good communication skills are crucial for sharing information and working with different teams. Investigating threats and solving problems can take time, so we also have to be quite patient. Most importantly, to be a cybersecurity analyst, you need to be adaptable and have a willingness to keep on learning. Cybersecurity is always changing, so you need to overcome different challenges every day. If you enjoy problem solving, learning new things and working with technology, a career in cybersecurity could be just for you.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people sitting there thinking that they had no idea that we had cybersecurity professionals working in the NHS. So I think one of the great things about this session is how different the two roles are, yours and Salma's. But interestingly, problem solving has been mentioned by both of you as a really key skill. So Paul, I suppose one of the things people might be thinking is, well, how does what you do affect, the NHS is there for patients at the end of the day. How does what you do affect patients?
Well, it's really key. Cybersecurity, viruses or malware, as we call it, can affect anything. So if you think about your home computer or laptop, you're worried that you're going to get a virus on your laptop or computer. But actually, there's loads of viruses out there that could impact medical equipment, from health monitors, from heart monitors, from cancer treatment. So it's vital that we're monitoring things to make sure that patients aren't impacted, and that doctors and people in hospitals can go about doing their daily jobs without having the worry that their computer network is being impacted, or worse still, they need to pull the plug from the back of a computer so they can't do their daily job.
Yes, pretty serious stuff. So just a reminder, and I can see that loads of people are putting questions in already, so that's really good to see. Keep them coming, because in a minute I'll be putting some of those questions to Paul. You touched on this a little bit in your video, Paul, but what really made you want to get into cybersecurity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as I mentioned on the video, I used to be a teacher. So I was in secondary schools, worked there for 15 years doing, computer science, business studies, that sort of thing. Really enjoyed it, but things were changing a bit in terms of teaching. So I really enjoyed the cyber side of things, and it's a real upcoming subject because it's forever changing. So it's something I got into, and it was something that made me have a sort of, if I want to change careers, what can I use that I've taught to then go and actually do as a job? And cyber was the thing that really was interesting to me. And then obviously with working for the NHS, you're supporting such an amazing organisation that really inspired me as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And what about and again, I think you told us these mainly in the video, but the main skills that you use, maybe, I don't know, the top 3 skills that you use in your job?
So one of the key things is going to be technical skills, because you need to be understanding what you're seeing, using your computer knowledge to be able to connect to another person's computer, look at different logs and things that you can see that's happening. But one of the other important skills is having that tenacity and adaptability. You've got to be able to learn lots of new things. Cyber changes on a daily basis. What one person is doing, somebody else can do differently. So we need to understand the intricacies of how that's happening to then stop it before it then potentially goes and affects a major hospital that impacts the patients and potentially could lead to appointments getting stopped or things not being able to work.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Right, so we are going to take some questions from you all watching in a second, but just before we do that, we've got that pre-recorded question from the students at Westfield Academy. So we'll just listen to that again, I think, and then we'll get Paul's answer to that.
Hi, my name is Annabelle, and we would like to know how you demonstrate NHS values.
So my answer is going to be quite similar to Salma's, even though we do very different jobs. I think one of the key values is improving lives. We're there protecting hospitals, doctors' surgeries that you may visit. We can actually be able to see what sort of things are going on their laptops, their computers, being able to reach out and actually see things that stops potentially lives being impacted. And again, same as Salma, another key one is that everyone counts. We are there to make sure that every single person that potentially could be impacted within NHS England are being seen to be monitored through the work that we do. So similar sort of key values to what Salma said.
Brilliant, which is good to hear, seeing as they're the NHS values and clearly work across all kind of different jobs. Great. Okay, right. Thank you all for all these questions that are coming in. Let me pick some out here. So good question here. Why would people want to attack the NHS system?
Great question. So the biggest thing is something called ransomware. Ransomware is where people will attack a computer system that stops you from using it, and then they'll demand money to then get you back onto the system. Now, you may think, well, why do they want to do that to the NHS? Because the NHS isn't known for having lots of money, but it's all about impacting lives and impacting people from being able to do stuff. And what they want to do is get their name out there to say, look what we stopped happening in the NHS. And everybody here needs the NHS in their lives to be able to go to the doctors, go to hospitals. So it's all about getting their name out there to say, look at the impact that we cause. So our job is mainly to make sure it never gets to that point, so we're not seeing headlines about hospitals or doctors being impacted.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So someone here has asked, do you find it difficult dealing with cybersecurity threats?
It can be very challenging, yeah, because as I've mentioned earlier, there's new things happening all the time. We can put things in place to stop regular things that we see. So you may have heard something called a phishing attack, where you get an email, you click a link and it causes viruses. that's really common. But if there's very sophisticated ways that people are doing stuff, we need to be ahead of the game, that when we see that happening, we can then sort of adapt to our abilities and then do things to stop that from occurring at other hospitals. And we work as one. So if a hospital is impacted, we can share those details with all the other hospitals to make sure that they're patched up and making sure they're not having the same issues.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And I think a couple of people have asked actually about the sort of the approximate number of cyber attacks or attempted cyber attacks on the NHS.
So there was one major one that happened in 2017 called WannaCry, which you can Google and look up, and that was a big sort of impact. But since then, there's been nothing on those scales because we've quadrupled in size in terms of the cybersecurity coverage that we have. There's things happening all the time, but often very minor that you don't hear about. But yeah, I'd say throughout a day, we probably see about 80 different alerts from between 9 and 5, and then overnight we've got another team that work from 5 till 9 the next morning. So therefore it's constantly happening. They're 24/7. To put a number on it would probably scare you, but there's lots of things you just never know that's happening, and we stop them at the core before they have any impact.
Yeah, great. Okay, and interesting that it's as you say, a 24/7 thing. The threat don't stop when people go home at 5 o'clock.
The key thing is, if you think about it, when are you going to do something so less people see? 3 in the morning, because you're not going to be monitoring as much. But we luckily have a 24/7 coverage, so the people that work overnight can see those things and then call out during the night.
Yeah, do something about it. Great. A few people asking about salary, Paul. So again, as with Salma, if you want to kind of give a range of what a potential starting salary could be.
So it's very similar again. We have the bands that Sam was talking about. Typical starting salary is about 28,000, but we have a lot of progression opportunities, and we'll have people that go up the step by step to band 6, band 7. I'm an 8A, and I started 4 years ago this March. So you can see where I came in as a band 5, moving up those bands in quite a quick time. So it is a really good thing. Often people say don't work public sector for the pay, but actually working within cyber is a really good place where you can actually do well with the monetary side of things.
Great. Okay, right. Someone here asking about what GCSEs you would need to get into a cybersecurity role.
Great question. So obviously, without saying the obvious of English and maths is really important, I'd say from a technical point of view, as I said, computer science is a really good thing to have because you've got that technical knowledge. You might learn a bit about cyber, but a lot of the people I work with and myself, computer science and IT wasn't necessarily around when they were at school. People have maths degrees or maths background. That's a really useful thing. But we've got people coming in with no cyber background before, starting on an apprenticeship, and then being able to learn at a university alongside doing their daily job. So short answer is any qualifications is going to be really useful, but I think English and maths are vital in terms of communication and having those skills.
Brilliant. And you were a teacher as well, so you are always going to mention English and maths. Favourite part of your job, Paul? Is it, if you've got a favourite bit?
There's a lot, variety of it. Every day is different. And I know that class, if any teachers listening, yes, every day is different. However, I think it's how rewarding it is. You know that you're supporting different hospitals and doctors across England. You know that what you're doing is really impacting and protecting the NHS. So I think the rewarding side of things, plus you do get opportunities to see lots of exciting things, and the technology that we have at NHS is brilliant. We have loads of access to different tools and techniques that allow us to use what's called sandboxes, so we can go on and demonstrate things and investigate things that aren't going to impact a server and do it in a sort of secure area. So it's really good that we have the technology.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Good question here. Are you based in a hospital or an office?
Great question. No. So I'm lucky I can work from home, which I am now, or we have a main office in Leeds. It's not in a hospital. It's just in it's a very nice office, actually. It's quite new. And it's just like any sort of open plan office where you've got lots of computers and desks. We have these great screens at the front where you can see a lot of information going on. You can look at them and see cyber things going on with lots of stats and stuff. So yeah, but we can work from home or work in the office. But it's great to be in the office because you get around people and you can collaborate so much easier than being on Teams calls.
Brilliant. Okay, one last question before we have to wrap up this little bit. When you have your lunch break, Paul, is there someone still working, still keeping an eye out?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so we have a team that's doing, I wouldn't say we stagger our lunch breaks, but there's a certain amount of people that cover areas. So I won't break it down into what the different areas cover, but if you're not at your desk or if you're away, somebody else will be monitoring things so we're not missing stuff. And as I say, once the day ends at 5 o'clock, we have an external organisation that works from 5 till 9 in the morning doing exactly what we're doing. So we are 24/7 covered, and it doesn't rely on one person constantly being on that certain area all the time.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you all for your really, really good questions. And again, apologies that we haven't got through all of them, but we just haven't got the time. Paul and Salma, thank you so much for joining us. Such interesting jobs. And, you know, maybe students, you've been listening and thinking, wow, these sound great. I want to find out more. I want to do my competition entry on one of these roles. So hopefully you've gathered lots of really great information. So we are just going to do a bit of kind of a chat through some of the competition stuff, just to remind you now of the brilliant prizes that you could win by entering. So, for example, you could get your entry on a digivan that visits your school and your local area where you live. You could also get to meet our NHS judges at the Winners' Day in June. This is a photo of the judges from last year, joined by some special guests by the looks of it. And also just to think, you can have a look at previous year's entries, because that might give you some great ideas as to what sort of things you might want to do. So I think we've so just a reminder about the criteria. Your entry needs to be appealing to other students, so other people of your age. What is going to appeal to them when you've picked your job role and you're creating that advert? We want it to be eye-catching. We want it to be original and creative. There are hundreds of entries for this competition, and you want your entry to stand out to the judges. And we also want to see that you show a good understanding of the role, so that you've actually looked into it, you've found out about the skills, the qualifications, the experience that you need. So it's bringing all of those things together into a great competition entry. Okay, so we have got a few examples of previous year's entries for you to see. So this was the national winner, which came from the Northeast. This was last year, and this was a vending machine. So it was a 3D model, and this was about the role of drama therapist. There were bits of information on those kind of blocks that you can see in there. So really creative idea that obviously the judges loved because it won. And then we've got a highly commended entry here from the Southeast. So this was a video and it was a series of interviews, and it was about the role of cleaners, domestics in the NHS, which are absolutely vital roles. Every single role in the NHS team makes a difference. So that was a highly commended entry. And then we've got a regional winner, and this was from the London area. And again, this was a 3D model, and this was showcasing the role of cardiac physiologist. So 3 really different roles there, and the judges loved all of those entries. So that may be one of those ideas has caught your attention and made you kind of think, yeah, I could do something like that. So we really hope you're looking forward to going away and starting to work on your entry. Okay, so maybe you can get started today on your entries. You know, use the time now while things are fresh in your head. You've got your worksheet. Hopefully you've been making notes on that. And remember, your entry can be in any format. So we've had posters, websites, videos, 3D models. I think we've had poems, all sorts of things. So think really broadly and just get creative in what you do. We've put the reminder of the criteria into the chat. And I'm sure you've been inspired by all the people you've heard today, whether you've joined one session or all of the sessions. What are you going to go away and have a look at first? Okay, so that's the end of the day. We have loved it. I hope that you have too. Thank you so much for joining. If you were part of the session earlier where we had the technical glitches, apologies about that. Thank you for sticking with us. You can go to the Step Into the NHS website for more information, for the Career Mapper quiz. we have got a contact centre. So if you've got questions about the competition or questions about careers, and that's that goes for you students as well, and you can get in touch with our contact centre, please feel free to do that. But most of all, we cannot wait to see your competition entries. You've got till the 30th of April, so there's still plenty of time, but we're looking forward to seeing all the creative ideas that you come up with. Thank you everyone, and have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.